Hello everyone, it's Thursday and you're watching Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. Recently, game lovers have been flocking to Busan. It hosted the semifinals of the League of Legends World Championship just last Sunday, and now starting this Thursday, there's South Korea's biggest game fair, G-Star. This year, this annual gaming trade show is going to be the biggest ever, with over 1,000 companies from 42 countries operating over 3,320 booths. What major game companies will visitors be able to see, and what are the latest trends in the gaming industry? For this, we have invited Ethan Shin, journalist at ONE Esports. Ethan, welcome to the show.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you. And we also have Austin Joo, a game business development manager from ISKRA Korea, which is a blockchain game platform. Good to have you with us, Austin.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us. Now, South Korea's largest gaming event, G-Star, is back starting today. And I hear there is a record high number of participating companies. Now, Austin, since you are in Busan right now, could you tell us more about this and how is the atmosphere there?
Yeah, sure. I was at the event earlier today and the atmosphere was great with many new exciting games showcasing for the first time this year. The main B2C crowd will flood in from tomorrow afternoon, but the B2B participants got to take a sneak peek at the B2C event hall from today. And so far, from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be a great event with big companies showcasing their new exciting games. And this year's G-Star has also expanded their B2C main hall as well as, so gamers will definitely have a lot to enjoy. And also, I've heard the B2B tickets have been sold out this year, which also shows the high anticipation of this year's G-Star event, not just in terms of high level of interest from gamers, but also from a business perspective, which shows things really have picked up after COVID.
All right, I see. It must be very exciting to be at the very spot, Austin. Well, Ethan, before we tap into the specifics of G-Star and which companies are there, I'd like to talk about the location first. Not just G-Star, the semifinals of this year's League of Legends World Championship also took place in the southeastern city of Busan. And for gamers, what does Busan City mean? And given that Busan City is currently bidding for the 2030 World Expo, what promotional effect could there be by having such gaming events?
Busan actually has been making quite a name for themselves, especially in the world of gaming and esports. For example, they sponsor multiple esports teams. Busan has its own map in a very popular game called Overwatch. And like you mentioned, they also hosted League of Legends Worlds and MSI, which is the two largest international tournaments for League of Legends. And they also hosted World Cyber Games this July, and they had a bunch of popular games like Clash Royale and Mobile Legends and things like that. I think this kind of support overall is very supportive. The support overall have a positive impact for the upcoming Expo 2030 bid because gaming and esports is becoming, becoming a very popular trend among youth, especially. For gamers, I think they see Busan as kind of like a cultural hub. I think Busan long ago they still are, but they were famous for films. They have an international film festival there and things like that. And now it's slowly shifting towards games. I'm not sure if gamers actually view Busan as like this major world esports, international esports city yet. But I think with this continued support, I think one day gamers will kind of view the city as one of the biggest esports cities in the world.
All right, I see. Well, it seems such gaming events could definitely give a boost to Busan's bid for 2030 Expo. All right, well, Austin, back to G-Star itself. One of South Korea's major game developers and publishers, NCSoft, has come back for the first time in 8 years, while Smilegate came back after 9 years. Could you tell us what kinds of new titles these big developers brought to this year's event?
Yes, both of these companies are definitely in the heart of excitement around this year's G-Star. NCSoft ambitiously opened the largest booth this year, looking to showcase 7 titles, which is not so common for these kind of events. But to name a few, they'll be introducing the shooting game Triple L, Royal Rumble game Battle Crush, collectible RPG BSS, and these games will be available on multiple platforms from PC to console for gamers to come and try out. And Smilegate RPG has also dropped some big news for this year. They'll be unveiling Lost Ark Mobile, which is a mobile version of their globally successful MMORPG title Lost Ark. Gamers will get the chance to play the test game at their booth for the first time, which is super exciting as well. And not to leave out these guys, the other major game companies such as Krafton, Remade, Webzen, Gravity, they also have a lot of fun and exciting games for users to come and experience.
All right, I see. They all sound very exciting. Lucky you to be at the very spot, Austin. Well, Ethan, we have been just talking about big developers like NCSoft, but what other game publishers are participating? What can visitors expect?
Yeah, I would like to talk about maybe two publishers. One is called the Dev Sisters. That they published a game called Cookie Run, which I think many people might be familiar with. They will be showcasing a new game called the Cookie Run Tower Adventures, which is based on the Cookie Run franchise. It's a real-time 3D co-op action game. You form a team with maybe random people or with your friends, and you just fight monsters as characters of Cookie Run. And the game that I'm kind of particularly interested in is it's a game called Breakers Unlock the World. It's created by a publishing company called Big Game Studios, which is an anime-based RPG. It will be available for PC and mobile. It is a very fast-paced action game, but it has a really awesome-looking anime art and graphics. So if anyone is a big fan of anime and big fan of action RPGs, I think that game is something that's worth checking out.
All right, I see. Thank you for recommending some of the new titles that we might be able to expect. All right. Well, Austin, we have talked about what visitors can expect, but how does participation in this event benefit game companies? What can they expect?
Well, since G-Star is one of the largest game shows in Asia, I think the pure attraction and exposure alone would justify participation. And on top of that, I think attending these events will create windows of opportunity for medium to small game developers in terms of investment opportunities and other lucrative business opportunities. To add, I believe it is always important for game companies to have intimate interactions with gamers to really understand their liking of the game and also to have a real firm grasp of current trends.
All right, so participating in the event itself could mean business opportunities for the companies. All right, well, Ethan, I'd like to now talk about the trends. Now, we can see the latest gaming trends through the event, and one noteworthy aspect is that games are expanding boundaries to console platforms. What is the reason behind such a trend?
I think it's mostly because of flexibility. Before that, if you wanted to play a certain game, like and you had a certain console or if you had a PC, like there were games that you could not play. I mean, it's still like that, but I think more companies are realizing that that's not helpful for players. So they want to expand their platforms to other consoles and even mobile, so that people with any system that they have, they can enjoy the game. This will also increase the number of players that are in the game, so that you'll have, I guess, better matches and you can play with more players. And I think that's a win-win situation for both publishers and also gamers. So I think this is a really good trend. I hope it's something that Korean gaming companies can continue.
All right. Well, you've just said that the Korean companies are trying to expand their boundaries to console platforms and also mobile as well. But do you think Korean companies are doing well right now? In terms of expanding boundaries, yes.
As far as I know, G-Star, some of the most popular games that are showcased in G-Star have multi-platform games. So I think they're doing well.
All right, I see. Now, Austin, another notable aspect is the popularity of subculture games. And to meet the changing trends, G-Star even decided to hold a side event called the Subculture Game Festival. What is this, and why is it increasingly becoming mainstream?
Right. Subculture usually refers to, non-mainstream way of life, customs, or trends. But in gaming, subculture usually used to describe genres of games that are heavily influenced by Japanese anime and they call subculture trends. And I understand that the subculture trend was always there, but games like Genshin Impact by Hoiverse really brought it up to the surface, which is ironic to name the subculture now because it's so mainstream. But even before games like Genshin Impact, there have been subculture games that were massively successful, and I think it's just become one of the core genres in gaming now. And the reason behind its popularity, I believe to be, is largely due to very attractive anime-like character designs, unique character persona, and high-quality voice acting. And also, a lot of technical advancements in game development technology have come to the point where they can capture the excitement of the anime battle scenes into a game. And in recent times, you can enjoy these high-quality games on your mobile, which makes them more accessible. And on top of all this, there have been trends of cosplay, and I think having Japanese anime characters come to real life kind of creates a lot of hype and a lot of excitement for users to kind of feel that the game characters can come to life. And I think a lot of subcultural events like that for cosplay has made the hype even bigger.
Right, I see. Well, Austin, I just mentioned that there is a side event in G-Star called the Subculture Game Festival. Were you able to go there?
Fortunately, no. I was busy with meetings, stuck in the meeting rooms. But
Really?
if I had the chance, I would have gone.
All right, all right.
These events are really exciting, yeah.
All right, because we have a reporter there doing the reports, and I just heard that there are so many people wearing the costumes, the game costumes, and it was quite interesting to hear that. Were you able to also see the people in game costumes?
Yes,
Really?
there are actually a lot of people that come in costumes and walking around and taking photos with people, just requesting to take selfies, and I think magazine companies also come along and take a lot of photos as well. Yeah.
All right, interesting. Right, well, Ethan, let's go a little bit broader into the game industry itself. South Korea accounts for around 7% of the global game market as of 2021, the fourth largest behind the US, China, and Japan. We are going to talk about how South Korea's gaming industry is doing, but before that, how are gaming industries in the US, China, and Japan different from each other? What is each country's strength?
Yeah, so the gaming industry in each market and region have their own unique selling points. The US is known for innovation and very large market size. China has a vast player base, and their mobile gaming market is booming. They're doing pretty well. And Japan has its rich history of iconic game franchises. So I'd like to, if I were to talk about a little bit about of each US. They have some of the biggest gaming companies in the world, like Riot Games and Blizzard, and they have been pushing out really popular franchises such as League of Legends and Call of Duty. If you're a gamer, you've definitely heard of these two games. Chinese game companies, their strength really comes from investing in and publishing already established mobile games. They have a stake in PUBG Mobile, which has been doing really well all over the world. But they also have their own really popular games such as Honor of Kings, and both games, I believe, in 2002 netted about 1.6 billion US dollars in revenue. Japanese gaming companies, they are definitely something that everyone is probably really familiar with because they have a history of a lot of iconic game franchises like Super Mario, Final Fantasy, Pokemon. Even if you're not a gamer, you have definitely heard of some of these, and Japan has been doing really well pushing out these franchises, and Pokemon has been really successful. I believe they are considered to be one of the most profitable franchise in history.
All right, well, thank you for explaining each characteristic of its own country's gaming industry. But Austin, amid such fierce competition, South Korea's game industry has seen increasing sales, and in 2021, it went over 20 trillion Korean won for the first time. And export sales, too, are continuing to see an increase. What is so unique about South Korean games?
There'll be multiple unique points for a lot of different genres and types of games out there, but I think to name a couple, the uniqueness will be content progression and giving a good challenge to gamers, I think, which is the two core aspects of games, I think. And I think it is well known that, Korean gamers have insane pace of play in terms of content consumption and high general skill level to match their content consumption. And Korean companies are constantly challenged by their domestic users to push out more content to match their content consumption, and they also have to make a very game that is challenging enough to keep them entertained, which is also, a good aspect that could appeal to a lot of global gamers out there. And in terms of visual aesthetics, I think Korean games have very nice, visually pleasing graphics. And I think Korean artists have a very high skill in terms of creating very strong visual effects for skills. So for a game like a RPG game where a character uses a certain magic spell, I think the visual effects are very important. And I think Korean game companies have a very good skill level to make the game actually feel realistic and visually appealing.
All right, I see. Now, however, Ethan, some say there needs to be a turning point for the game industry as the domestic gaming market faces saturation. What difficulties is the industry facing right now?
I think one of the two things that gaming companies could improve on is maybe global expansion. Because aside from few titles, for example, Lost Ark, many of the games published, created in Korea, most of their players are in Korea, and they have failed to, well, not failed, but they have difficulty expanding, especially they're behind, I guess, other big franchises like Super Mario or Pokemon. And I think that is something that they can work on, trying to appeal to a wider audience. I think there's also a need for maybe innovation, because in my opinion, just many of the games that are being released in South Korea are either mobile MMORPGs or RPGs in general. I think there should be innovation to expand to other genres, or maybe have like a different take on how we can play these MMORPGs. I think those two things are maybe two difficulties that the gaming companies are facing right now.
Right, I see. So we might have to focus on global expansion, and we might have to come up with innovative ideas to expand our boundaries and genres. All right, well, I believe this would be our last question, and I'd like to ask both of our experts. Now, what kinds of measures should be put in place to further develop the industry? Ethan, could you start us off?
Yeah, sure. I wish that Korean gaming companies could develop like an iconic franchise, just like how I mentioned Super Mario, Final Fantasy, something that like the world can recognize right away, something with a rich story, rich character development and things like that. I think that's one of the ways I think they can develop the industry. And like I mentioned before, I think we should get into more genres. We have some of the best looking games, and I think it would be amazing to have other genre games with our artists and with our talent and things like that. I believe that we can create something amazing, and also focus more on global collaboration. Since we're kind of like struggling to expand to the global market, maybe working with other companies could also help them. And I guess from my point of view, I wish, because I cover mostly esports, I wish Korean gaming companies could create more esports titles, because, we are really famous for our esports players, but unfortunately we play mostly non-Korean games for esports. So I hope one day we can play a Korean created esports titles in the future.
Right, I hope so too. Well, Austin, may I ask your opinion as well?
Well, I strongly agree with what Ethan said so far, but I'd like to take a different point of view. I think this applies to all saturated markets and markets with dinosaurs taking most of the pie, like the Korean gaming industry, where the three big ends are, in charge of the most of the domestic market. And I think there needs to be a constant effort put in to support small game developers and indie game developers, and also allowing younger generation of future game developers to paint their canvas with new exciting ideas. and drive the trend of the market, which kind of touches on what Ethan said, that we need to diversify on the genres of games that we make. I believe that big companies are forced to kind of funnel into RPGs and MMORPGs because most of the money is there. And, I understand that from a big company point of view, but for an entertainment business, and I believe games to be a part of like a creative industry as well, there needs to be a lot of smaller game developers and indie game makers to have enough support to come up with new ideas and new genres of games for innovative ideas. And games industry is in fact a multi-billion-dollar global business market, and it is something Korean companies are quite good at so far, except for the parts that we just spoke of. And with more support, many more could do better, and I think that would expand the spectrum of Korean games in the long run.
All right, well, I cannot agree more. And based on what our experts told us, hopefully we can continue to see a boost for the game industry. All right, well, thank you, Austin and Ethan, for your time and insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all for Within the Frame tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.